global state control of the economy.
There's a cuck who knows about it, and there's a cuck who's in denial. You guys are in denial. If you think Israel is the problem, the Jew is the problem, not Israel.
Israel is downstream from the Jews.
He said Israel is not the problem because globalism created Israel, not vice versa.
Right, so let's get things, like, we need common ground here. If Israel stops existing tomorrow, the Jew problem still exists. It's not gone. Right?
That's right.
The central bank allows this shit to happen anyway. The central bank.
So that's why it's not the Israel question, it's the Jewish question.
It is, but finance is how it's the central bank. That's where it's at.
Right.
Take the central bank away, they will crumble in less than a week.
Having diplomatic powers is a very, very powerful position, though. You gotta admit that having a country is a really good next move.
I mean, I think,
right?
Okay. Simply,
it's like a center of operations, dude.
You don't need to attack them or harm them, okay?
Diego, I don't know if you want to straighten the room, but the OnlyFans down there.
The Jew who is fair and square, that guy will be good, you know? But, like, when you end the central bank, there's no room for nepotism. You can't, rule.
What a fascist. What a fascist.
So on. And then we worry. Once you start thinking about things, you worry as to whether you've thought enough. Did you really take all the details into consideration? Was every fact properly reviewed? And by Jove, the more you think about it, the more you realize that you really couldn't take everything into consideration, because all the variables in any human decision are incalculable. So you get anxiety. And this, though, also, this is the price you pay for knowing that you know. Being able to think about thinking, feel about feeling. And so you're in this funny position. Now then, do you see that this is simultaneously an advantage and a terrible disadvantage? What has happened here is that by having a certain kind of consciousness, a certain kind of reflexive consciousness, being aware of being aware, being able to represent what goes on fundamentally in terms of a system of symbols, such as words, such as numbers. You put, as it were, two lives together at once, one representing the other. The symbols representing the reality, the money representing the wealth. And if you don't realize that the symbol is really secondary, it doesn't have the same value. You know, people go to the supermarket and they get a whole cartload of goodies and they drive it through. And then the clerk fixes up the counter and this long tape comes out. And you say, $30, please. And everybody feels depressed. Because they give away $30 worth of paper, but they've got a cartload of goodies. They don't think about that. They think they just lost $30. But you've got the real wealth in the cart. All you parted with was the paper. Because the paper in our system becomes more valuable than the wealth. It represents power, potentiality, whereas the wealth, you think, oh well, that's just necessary. You gotta eat. I mean, that's to be really mixed up. So then, if you awaken from this this illusion, and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life. You can feel yourself, not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. So, say in Hindu mythology, they say that the world is the drama of God. God is not something in Hindu mythology with a white beard that sits on a throne and that has royal prerogatives. God in Indian mythology is the self, Sat Chidananda, which means Sat, that which is, Chit, that which is consciousness, that which is Ananda is bliss. And in other words, what exists, reality itself, is gorgeous. It is the plenum, the fullness of total joy. Wow-wee. And all those stars, if you look out in the sky, as a firework display like you see on the 4th of July, which is a great occasion for celebration. The universe is a celebration. It is a firework show to celebrate that existence is. Wow-wee. And then they say, but however, there's no point just in sustaining bliss. Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure, see. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? Then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. Finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. The first thing he says to himself is, man, get lost. Because he gives himself away. The nature of love is self-abandonment, not clinging to oneself. Throwing yourself out, as in, for example, in basketball, you're always getting rid of the ball. You say to the other fellow, have a ball. See? And that keeps things moving. That's the nature of life. So in this idea, then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality. Not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that. Only you're pretending you're not. And it's perfectly okay to pretend you're not. To be absolutely convinced, because this is the whole notion of drama. When you come into the theater, There is a proscenium arch and a stage, and down there is the audience. And everybody assumes their seats in the theater and are going to see a comedy, a tragedy, a thriller, or whatever it is. And they all know as they come in and pay their admissions that what is going to happen on the stage is not for real. But the actors have a conspiracy against this because they're going to try and persuade the audience that what is happening on the stage is for real. They want to get everybody sitting on the edge of their chairs. They want to get you terrified or crying or laughing. Absolutely captivated by the drama. And if a skillful human actor can take in an audience and make people cry, think what the cosmic actor can do. Why, he can take himself in completely. He can play so much for real that he really believes it is. Like you sitting in this room, you think you're really here. Why, you've persuaded yourself that way. You've acted it so damn well that you know this is the real world. But you're playing it. It's because the audience and the actor is one. Because behind the stage, there's the green room. Off-scene. Obscene. Where the actors take off their masks. You know that the word person means mask? The persona, which is the mask worn by actors in Greco-Roman drama, because it has a megaphone-type mouth which throws the sound out in an open-air theater. So per through sona, what the sound comes through, that's the mask. How to be a real person. How to be a genuine fake. A mask. So the dramatis personae at the beginning of a play is the list of masks that the actors will wear. And so in the course of forgetting that this life is a drama, the word for the role, the word for the mask, has come to mean who you are genuinely. The person. The proper person. Incidentally, the word parson is derived from the word person. Person of the village. Person around town, parson. Funny. So anyway then, this is the drama. I'm not trying to sell you on this idea in the sense of converting you to it. I want you to play with it. I want you to think of its possibilities. I'm not trying to prove it. I'm just putting it forward as a possibility of life to think about. So then, this means that you're not victims of a scheme of things, of a mechanical world, or of an autocratic God. The life you're living is what you put yourself into. Only you don't admit it, because you want to play the game that it's happened to you. In other words, I got mixed up in this world. My parents, I had a father who got hot pants over a girl, and she was my mother. And because he was just a horny old man. And as a result of that, I got born. And I blame him for it and say, well, that's your fault. You've got to look after me. And he says, I don't see why I should look after you. You're just a result. But let's suppose we admit that I really wanted to get born. And that I was the ugly gleam in my father's eye when he approached my mother. That was me. I was desire. And I deliberately got involved in this thing. Look at it that way instead. And that even if I got myself into an awful mess, and I got born with syphilis and the Great Siberian Itch, tuberculosis, and in a Nazi concentration camp, nevertheless, this was a game which was a very far-out play. It was a kind of cosmic masochism. But I did it. Isn't that an optimal game rule for life? Because if you play life on the supposition that you're a helpless little puppet who got involved, or if you play it on the supposition that it's a frightful, serious risk, and that we really ought to do something about it, and so on, it's a drag. There's no point in going on living unless we make the assumption that the situation of life is optimal. That really and truly we are all in a state of total bliss and delight. But we're going to pretend we aren't just for kicks. You play non-bliss in order to be able to experience bliss. And you can go as far out as non-bliss as you want to go. And when you wake up, it'll be great. You know, you can slam yourself on the head with a hammer because it's so nice when you stop. And it makes you realize, you see, how great things are when you forget that that's the way it is. And that's just like black and white. You don't know black unless you know white. You don't know white unless you know black. It's simply fundamental. So then, here's the drama. My metaphysics, let me be perfectly frank with you, are that there is the central self. You could call it God, you can call it anything you like. And it's all of us. It's playing all the parts of all beings whatsoever, everywhere and anywhere. And it's playing the game of hide and seek with itself. It gets lost, it gets involved in the farthest out adventures. But in the end, it always wakes up and comes back to itself. And when you're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. If you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a poor little me. And since you're all here and engaged in this sort of inquiry and listening to this sort of lecture, I assume that you're all on the process of waking up. Or else you're teasing yourselves with some kind of flirtation with waking up, which you're not serious about. But I assume maybe you are, not serious but sincere, that you are ready to wake up. So then, when you're in the way of waking up and finding out who you really are, you meet a character called a guru. As the Hindus say, this word, the teacher, the awakener. And what is the function of a guru? He's the man who looks at you in the eye and says, oh, come on. I know who you are. You know, you come to the guru and say, sir, I have a problem. I'm unhappy. I want to get one up on the universe, or I want to become enlightened. I want spiritual wisdom. Ah, the guru looks at you and says, who are you? You know Sri Ramana Maharshi, that great Hindu sage of modern times? People used to come to him and say, Master, who was I in my last incarnation? As if that mattered. He would say, who is asking the question? He'd look at you and say, basically, go right down to it. You're looking at me, you're looking out, and you're unaware of what's behind your eyes. Go back in and find out who you are, where the question comes from, why you ask. And if you've looked at a photograph of that man, I have a gorgeous photograph of him. And you look in those, I walk by it every time I go out of the front door. And I look at those eyes, and the humor, lilting laugh that says, oh, come on. Shiva, I recognize you. When you come to my door and you say, I'm so-and-so, I say, ha ha, what a funny way God has come on today. There are all sorts of tricks, of course, that gurus play. They say, well, we're going to put you through the mill. And the reason they do that is simply that you won't wake up until you feel you've paid a price for it. In other words, the sense of guilt that one has, or the sense of anxiety, is simply the way one experiences keeping the game of disguise going on. Do you see that? Supposing you say, I feel guilty. Christianity makes you feel guilty for existing. That somehow, the very fact that you exist is an affront. You a fallen human being. I remember as a child when we went to the services of the church on Good Friday, they gave us each a colored postcard with Jesus crucified on it. And it said underneath, "This have I done for thee, what doest thou for me?" You know, you felt awful. You nailed that man to the cross. Because you eat steak, you have crucified Christ. Because they killed the bull, after all, you depend on it. Mithra, it's the same mystery. And what are you going to do about that? This have I done for thee, what doest thou for me? You feel awful that you just exist at all. But that sense of guilt is the veil across the sanctuary. Don't you dare come in. In order to, in all mysteries, when you're going to be initiated, there's somebody saying, don't you come in. You've got to fulfill this requirement, and this requirement, and this requirement, and this requirement. Then we'll let you in. So you go through the mill. Why? Because you're saying to yourself, I won't wake up until I feel I deserve it. I won't wake up until I've made it difficult for me to wake up. So I invent for myself an elaborate system of delaying my waking up. I put myself through this test and that test, and when I feel it's been sufficiently arduous, then I may at last admit to myself who I really am, and draw aside the veil, and realize that after all, when all is said and done, I am that I am, which is the name of God. And when it comes to it, that's really rather funny. They say in Zen, when you attain Satori, nothing is left to you at that moment but to have a good laugh. But naturally, all masters, Zen masters, yoga masters, every kind of master, puts up a barrier and says to you, it simply plays your own game. We say anybody who goes to a psychiatrist ought to have his head examined. Because when you go to a psychiatrist, you define yourself as somebody who ought to have his head examined. Same way, the Zen masters say anybody who studies Zen or comes to a Zen master ought to be given 30 blows with a stick. Because he was stupid enough to pose the question that he had a problem. But you're the problem. You put yourself in the situation. So it's a question fundamentally. Do you define yourself as a victim of the world or as the world? You can define yourself. You see, if you identify you with what you call the voluntary system of the nerves, and say, only that's me, and that's really a rather limited amount of my total performance, what I do voluntarily, then you've defined yourself as the victim in the game. And so you are able to feel that life was a trap. Something else, whether it was God or whether it was fate or whether it was the big mechanism, the system, imposed this on you. And you can say, poor little me. But you can equally well, and with just as much justification, define yourself not only as what you do voluntarily, but also what you do involuntarily. That's you do. Do you beat your heart or don't you? Or does it just happen to you? And if you define yourself as the works, then nobody's imposing on you. You're not a victim. You're doing it. Because you can't explain how you do it in words, because words are too clumsy. And it takes too long to say. You get bored with it. But actually, then you can say, with gusto, I am responsible this life, whether comedy or tragedy, I did it. And it seems to me that that is a basis for behavior and going on, which is more fundamentally joyous and profitable and great than defining ourselves as miserable victims or sinners or what have you.
Out of Your Mind now continues with the next lecture from the Nature of Consciousness lecture series.
I was discussing an alternative myth to the ceramic and fully automatic models of the universe. I'll call the dramatic myth. The idea that life as we experience it's a big act, and that behind this big act is the player. And the player, or the self, as it's called in Hindu philosophy, the Atman, is you. Only you are playing hide and seek, since that is the essential game that's going on. It's the game of games, it's the basis of all games, hide and seek. And so since you're playing hide and seek, you are deliberately, although you can't admit this, or won't admit it, you are deliberately forgetting who you really are, or what you really are, and the knowledge that your essential self is the foundation of the universe, the ground of being, as Tillich calls it, is something you have as what the Germans call a Hintergedanke. A Hintergedanke is a thought way, way, way in the back of your mind, way back here somewhere. Something that you know deep down, but can't admit. So, in a way then, in order to bring this to the front, in order to know that that is the case, you have to be kitted out of your game. You see, the problem is this. We identify in our experience a differentiation between what we do and what happens to us. We have a certain number of actions that we define as voluntary. We feel in control of those. And then over against that, there is all those things that are involuntary. But the dividing line between these two is very arbitrary. Because, for example, when you move your hand, you feel that you decide whether to open it or to close it. But then ask yourself, how do you decide? When you decide to open your hand, do you first decide to decide? You don't, do you? You just decide, and how do you do that? And if you don't know how you do it, is it voluntary or involuntary? Let's consider breathing. You can feel that you breathe deliberately. You can control your breath. But when you don't think about it, it goes on. Is it voluntary or involuntary? So we come to have a very arbitrary definition of self. That much of my activity which I feel I do. And that then doesn't include breathing most of the time. It doesn't include the heartbeats. It doesn't include the activity of the glands. It doesn't include digestion. It doesn't include how you shape your bones, circulate your blood. Do you or do you not do these things? Now, if you get with yourself and you find out that you are all of yourself, a very strange thing happens. You find that your body knows that you're one with the universe. In other words, that the so-called involuntary circulation of your blood is one continuous process with the stars shining. If you find out that it's you who circulates your blood, you will at the same moment find out that you are shining the sun. Because your physical organism is one continuous process with everything else that's going on. Just as the waves are continuous with the ocean, your body is continuous with the total energy system of the cosmos. And it's all you. Only you're playing the game that you're only this bit of it. But as I tried to explain, there are in physical reality no such things as separate events. So then, remember also when I tried to work towards a definition of omnipotence. Omnipotence is not knowing how everything is done. It's just doing it. You don't have to translate it into language. Look, supposing when you got up in the morning, you had to switch your brain on. And you had to think and do as a deliberate process, waking up all the circuits that you need for active life during the day. Why, you'd never get done. Because you have to do all those things at once. How can a centipede control 100 legs at once? Because it doesn't think about it. So in the same way, you are unconsciously performing all the various activities of your organism. Only unconsciously isn't a good word, because it sounds sort of dead. Superconsciously would be better. Give it a plus rather than a minus. Because what a consciousness is simply a sort of specialized form of awareness. When you look around the room, you are conscious of as much as you can notice. And you see an enormous number of things which you don't notice. If, for example, I look at a girl here and somebody asks me later, what was she wearing? I may not know, although I've seen, because I didn't attend. But I was aware, you see. And perhaps if I could, under hypnosis, be asked this question, where I would get my conscious attention out of the way through being in the hypnotic state, I could recall what dress she was wearing. So then, just in the same way as you don't focus your attention on how you make your thyroid gland function, so in the same way you don't have any attention focused on how you shine the sun. So then, let me connect this with the problem of birth and death, which puzzles people enormously, of course. Because in order to understand what the self is, you have to remember that it doesn't need to remember anything. Just like you don't need to know how you work your thyroid gland. So then, when you die, you're not going to have to put up with everlasting non-existence, because that's not an experience. A lot of people are afraid that when they die, they're going to be locked up in a dark room forever. And sort of undergo that. But one of the most interesting things in the world, this is a yoga, this is a way of realization. Try and imagine what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Think about that. Children think about it. It's one of the great wonders of life. What will it be like to go to sleep and never wake up? And if you think long enough about that, something will happen to you. You will find out, among other things, that it'll pose the next question to you. What was it like to wake up after having never gone to sleep? That was when you were born. You see, you can't have an experience of nothing. Nature abhors a vacuum. So after you're dead, the only thing that can happen is the same experience, or the same sort of experience as when you were born. In other words, we all know very well that after people die, other people are born. And they're all you. Only you can only experience it one at a time. Everybody is I. You all know you are you. And wheresoever beings exist throughout all galaxies, it doesn't make any difference. You are all of them. And when they come into being, that's you coming into being. You know that very well. Only you don't have to remember the past. In the same way, you don't have to think about how you work your thyroid gland or whatever else it is in your organism. You don't have to know how to shine the sun. You just do it. Like you breathe. Doesn't it really astonish you that you are this fantastically complex thing? And that you're doing all of this and you never had any education in how to do it? You never learned, but you're this miracle? Well, the point is that from a strictly physical, scientific standpoint, this organism is a continuous energy with everything else that's going on. And if I am my foot, I am the sun. Only we've got this little partial view. We've got the idea that no, I'm just something in this body. The ego. That's a joke. The ego is nothing other than the focus of conscious attention. It's like a radar on a ship. The radar on a ship is a troubleshooter. Is there anything in the way? And conscious attention is a designed function of the brain to scan the environment, like a radar does, and note for any trouble-making changes. But if you identify yourself with your troubleshooter, then naturally you define yourself as being in a perpetual state of anxiety. And the moment we cease to identify with the ego and become aware that we are the whole organism, you realize that as the first thing how harmonious it all is. Because your organism is a miracle of harmony. All this thing functioning together. Even those corpuscles and creatures that are fighting each other in the bloodstream and eating each other up. If they weren't doing that, you wouldn't be healthy. So what is discord at one level of your being is harmony at a higher level. And you begin to realize that, and you begin to be aware, too, that the discords of your life and the discords of people's life, which are a fight at one level, at a higher level of the universe, are healthy and harmonious. And you suddenly realize that everything that you are and do is at that level as magnificent and as free of any blemish as the patterns in waves. The markings in marble, the way a cat moves, and that this world is really okay. It can't be anything else, because otherwise it couldn't exist. But the reality underneath physical existence, or which really is physical existence, because in my philosophy there's no difference between the physical and the spiritual. These are absolutely out-of-date categories. It's all process. It isn't stuff on the one hand and form on the other. It's just, it is pattern. Life is pattern. It is a dance of energy. So I will never invoke spooky knowledge. That is to say that I've had a private revelation, or that I have sensory vibrations going on a plane which you don't have. Everything is standing right out in the open. It's just a question of how you look at it. So you do discover, when you realize this, the most extraordinary thing to me that I never cease to be flabbergasted at whenever it happens to me. Some people will use a symbolism of the relationship of God to the universe, wherein God is a brilliant light, only somehow veiled, hiding underneath all these forms that you see as you look around you. So far, so good. But the truth is funnier than that. It is that you are looking right at the brilliant light now. That the experience you are having, which you call ordinary everyday consciousness, pretending you're not it, that experience is exactly the same thing as it. There's no difference at all. And when you find that out, you laugh yourself silly. That's the great discovery. In other words, when you really start to see things, and you look at an old paper cup, and you go into the nature of what it is to see, what vision is, or what smell is, or what touch is, you realize that that vision of the paper cup is the brilliant light of the cosmos. Nothing could be brighter. 10,000 suns couldn't be brighter. Only they're hidden in the sense that all the points of the infinite light are so tiny when you see them in the cup. They don't blow your eyes out. But it is actually, see, the source of all light is in the eye. If there were no eyes in this world, the sun would not be light. You evoke light out of the universe. In the same way, you, by virtue of having a soft skin, evoke hardness out of wood. Wood is only hard in relation to a soft skin. It's your eardrum that evokes noise out of the air. You, by being this organism, call into being the whole universe of light and color and hardness and heaviness and everything. You see? But in the mythology that we've sold ourselves on during the end of the 19th century, when people discovered how big the universe was, and that we live on a little planet in a solar system on the edge of a galaxy, which is a minor galaxy, everybody thought, we're really unimportant after all. God isn't there and doesn't love us. Nature doesn't give a damn. And we put ourselves down, see? But actually, it's this little funny microbe, tiny thing, crawling on this little planet, that's way out somewhere, who has the ingenuity, by the nature of this magnificent organic structure, to evoke the whole universe out of what would otherwise be mere quanta. There's jazz going on. But you see, this little ingenious organism is not merely some stranger in this. This little organism on this little planet is what the whole show is growing there, and so realizing its own presence. Well, now here's the problem. If this is the state of affairs, which is so, and if the consciousness state you're in at this moment is the same thing as what we might call the divine state, if you do anything to make it different, it shows you don't understand that it's so. So the moment you start practicing yoga, or praying, or meditating, or indulging in some sort of spiritual cultivation, you are getting in your own way. The Buddha said, we suffer because we desire. If you can give up desire, you won't suffer. But he didn't say that as the last word. He said that as the opening step of a dialogue. Because if you say that to someone, they're going to come back after a while and say, yes, but I'm now desiring not to desire. And so the Buddha will answer, well, at last you're beginning to understand the point. Because you can't give up desire. Why would you try to do that? It's already desired. So in the same way, you say, you ought to be unselfish, or to give up your ego. Let go, relax. Why do you want to do that? Just because it's another way of beating the game. The moment you see, you hypothesize that you are different from the universe, you want to get one up on it. But if you try to get one up on the universe, and you're in competition with it, it means you don't understand you are it. You think there's a real difference between self and other. But self, what you call yourself, and what you call other, are mutually necessary to each other, like back and front. They're really one. But just as a magnet polarizes itself in north and south, but it's all one magnet, so experience polarizes itself as self and other. But it's all one. So if you try to make the North Pole get the mastery of it, or the South Pole get the mastery of the North Pole, you sure you don't know what's going on? A guru or teacher who wants to get this across to somebody, because he knows it himself. And when you know it, you like others to see it too. So what he does is he gets you into being ridiculous harder and more assiduously than usual. In other words, if you are in a contest with the universe, he's going to stir up that contest until it becomes ridiculous. So he sets you such tasks as say,
Is it you don't want to do it for real?
Big Ice. Big Ice is in the house.
Does that get him started on the truth?
Exactly. Well, the truth is, once you see the truth, you know it.
doesn't make sense, it's never
But it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
That's right.
Are you drunk?
Well,
You
no,
actually sound
yes,
sober,
yes.
but retarded.
The truth goes, I have to say. What did you say? I don't understand.
I said for being this retarded, David actually sounds sober,
Yeah, today he's sober.
it's a Monday, but still retarded. Usually I put his retardation down to Valgone.
Here you go, you
I
reach
mean,
for
can
the
you act
water.
it against though? I
Yes.
wouldn't. That's the...
Without order, there's chaos.
I just think a well-moderated room shouldn't have any rage quitting.
Well, therefore, there can be no mass number of mods.
Yes.
And there can be no females.
Yes.
I could see you rage quitting and call
Isa
literally boomed her own room earlier. Like, fuck me if that's not.
No, Isabel is fine with any discussion as long as... So I had it several times.
As long as it's pro-Jew.
Dude, exactly. So what they did is it was a group of Jews, and they were talking about how Muslims are pedophiles. And so I go in and I support them. They love me. They even wanted me. And then I turn it against them. And then suddenly they're no longer interested in talking about theology. That's it. The moment you mention they're no longer interested in talking about theology, they're just chilling there. They don't want to talk about scriptural pedophilia. It's done. They only want to call out the Muslim. Once you call out the Jew, then no. We're just chilling, man. We don't want to talk
Do
religion.
you have valid criticisms of the Muslim?
Yeah, I do, but I promise you
Yeah.
that the Jew is much worse than the
One
Muslim.
demon at a time.
Very far.
I will never attack them. No, I mean, you are the witnesses. I will never attack a Muslim in front to defend the Jew. That's never gonna happen.
That's right.
In fact, I'm gonna equip the Muslims with the Torah knowledge that the Jews don't want because they don't read the Torah. I will equip the Muslims with the spirit of the Torah so that then they can attack the Jews.
So on the scale
Did
of like
you see my?
the scale of Orthodox Christians being at the very top, where are the Muslims and the Jews in your opinion?
Everyone knows I don't like Muslims.
I see that chart.
I had a fight with McLevin for more than 6 months now. I keep saying the Muslims are worse than Jews. You keep saying Jews are worse than Muslims. But yeah, did you know that I sent him an official letter of apology?
Oh, see, that's nice. I like it.
I'm so confused. His
Yeah,
position is that Jews are worse than Muslims?
Yeah, Jews are, yeah,
Yes.
Jews are worse than Muslims, yes.
No. Whose position is that?
Randy's position was that Muslims were worse than Jews for years. You would say
Yeah.
that.
And then he changed.
The opposite is wrong. No, I'm fully convinced Jews are worse than Muslims, yeah.
Yeah. Muslims are like a low level,
McZed, have you seen my PTR?
but the Jew comes in and actually infiltrates
No.
his power.
I don't
Yeah, the Christian and the Muslim can come together to fight a common enemy.
No, that is humanism. But why would I help the Jew against the Muslim? I'd rather help the Muslim against the Jew. Shit,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Muslims are like your neighbor's dog or cat that shits in your yard, right? But like the Jews, like they're the insects that like will destroy your house from within.
No, but the Muslim can be retarded and illiterate, but like blaspheming isn't necessarily his.
Yeah, but it's harmless, right? On their own, anyway. It's a exterior, you know,
to the Jew,
minor threat.
blaspheming is like candy to the Jew. The Muslim, I disagree with his faith. I think it's false, absurdly false, but at least he believes in it. The Jew doesn't even believe in Judaism.
Yeah, but like,
Right.
if less than 100 of them appear in your country, the Muslims don't get to reach like the centers of power.
Now, I'm raised with Muslims. I mean, I'm raised in a country 97% Muslims.
And you are running.
And you hated them for years, but now that you've been distanced from them, you kind of miss them a
They're
little bit.
horrible creatures, but then imagine it. But I still think the Jews are much worse. No, I do believe that. I mean,
What
I
about
was
Protestants? What about Protestants?
they're horrible. Oh my god.
Would you rather live with Muslims or Protestants?
Man, that's a tough one.
Admit it, you kind of miss your Muslim cousins a little bit. Some a little bit. You've been in this Western world too long.
That's a tough one. Honestly, I am.
You like them white girls, don't you?
I like Muslim ass also. I mean, but the truth of the matter is, which one would I choose, man? That's a really tough one.
I love how he's actually giving you serious. It's not a joke.
There's nothing sweeter than a well father-protected Arab princess.
She must bleach
No,
though.
but I mean, this is my point. That the Muslim actually believes in Islam, whereas the Jew doesn't believe in Islam. Doesn't believe in Judaism. Yet he believes this
He
land was
believes in anthropocentrism.
this land was given to him by what? By God in the Torah. But he doesn't believe in the Torah. But this land is his because of the Torah. You see how retarded? He doesn't even believe in it.
That's funny. You should actually ask some of these, like, when was the last time, you know, like, are you practicing? And when was the last time you were in synagogue?
That's what I thought the
Well,
end
but-
was. I
but-
thought,
But yet they use this as justification
I
for
thought
why.
they-
No, but like Zed goes every week.
Yeah, I know, but some of the
Nick
rest
said
of
yesterday,
these
he told me that he keeps
Nick
eating
said
the
it
Torah
atheist,
because he
so I
went to
was
Shabbos.
surprised. This
No, let
argument
me
when it comes
correct
to
you there.
Judaism,
I
all of a
go to
sudden
shul
becomes a
twice a day. I'm on my way there now.
Ooh,
Okay, well, say
twice a
hello.
day, Jesus.
So if you
Well,
go there,
Like
okay,
I
so
said,
if
I'm
I
in
go there,
Florida.
so if I go there 3 times a day, I kept the Torah, that's it. That's it.
Oh yeah, McZed, you left the other day, but when he had a good point. He was basically saying, like, just because you've met your legal obligations, you know, does that really make you a pious worshiper?
No, it doesn't, Diego. They know that there's no salvation in the Torah. That's why they have to do the atonement every year, which they don't do because there's no temple. In a way, the Torah simply tells you that the law didn't come for the lawful; it came for the lawless, and it's just the compass for you to know what is sinful. It itself doesn't save you. These things are known. That's why they need Hamashiach, right?
Yeah, the laws of ethics or morality is law.
Right. They're gonna have a very hard time trying to go against that. Shit.
Was that where you quoted? Was it Deuteronomy or something else? No, it was Hosea.
That's for something else. No, that was just an example to show you how they miss the spirit of the Torah, and they focus on the letter in the sense that they do teach doctrines of men as if they're commandments of God, and they do boil this again. They have like bones without flesh. So I gave you that example just to show you that they don't really actually follow what's being told to them because they don't even read it. What they do is they boil it down to 613 commandments, do one of them, and that's it. That's it, you kept the Torah. Do Shabbos, oh, you kept the Torah, that's it. That's not really how it is. By the way, Moshe himself violated the Torah. He fasted 40 days, 40 nights on Mount Sinai. Oh, you're not supposed to fast on the Shabbos. He broke 4 consecutive Shabbos. So what does that mean? He's horrible, he didn't keep Torah, he's done. That's it. Like, yeah, okay. Legalism is not a smart way to do things. It's dumb. That's my argument against them. And honestly, the Muslims employ the same thing. The Catholics, they go employ the same. They have legalism.
We have a lot of legalities. I mean, we are kind of responsible.
That's not
for
smart.
Western.
Only dumb people do that. That's not smart.
Well, it's a starting point, you know.
And that's not a start.
You get it.
It's the ending point.
And at least we have a pope.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if anything, looking at it from that perspective, the Protestant is even better than all of those.
Hey, Nora, have you ever seen the pictures of Pope John Paul II and the Palestinian who tried to kill him?
No, I didn't know Palestinian.
He forgave him.
He forgave him. I've never seen the photos before. Someone posted them on Instagram. He went to prison, sat with the Palestinian, and by the end of the talk, the Palestinian was crying.
Oh.
And begging him for forgiveness, and then there's like these photos of them shaking hands and stuff. And then the Palestinian came many years later to the Vatican with flowers after he died, and he broke down crying.
That's right. So Mixed, can you be better than that Pope?
Why? What was his reasoning of why he was trying to kill the Pope?
And give me the heart of peace.
I'm just trying to call attention to the Palestinian cause or something.
Mixed, if you don't give me the heart of peace, you won't go justify. You need to go justify.
If you ask me,
remember the funeral of Pope John Paul?
He's not giving me the heart of peace.
I don't remember.
Are you Christian?
Diego, did he convert?
I'm Catholic.
That's a good question.
So Diego, do you remember?
No, I took it back. I take it back. He wasn't Palestinian. He was Turkish.
Oh, okay.
That's racist.
I must be mixing that with the RFK consensus.
What kind of
So
Catholic are you?
Diego, do you remember that or no?
When he died,
Yeah, the funeral.
like 20 years ago? No, I don't really remember.
Because I do remember, first of all, he was in a very simple wooden casket. But basically every president, every world leader, every king, from what I remember, came to it. It was like I think it was the most royalty and presidents in one place at one time in history. It's great.
That's right.
So he said that it was revenge for the still ongoing attack on the Grand Mosque in Mecca by the United States and Israel.
But the United States bombed the mosque in Saudi Arabia? When did that happen?
Let me see. The Grand Mosque seizure occurred in 1979. The holiest Islamic site in Mecca, Saudi Arabia.
Do you think it was a psyop or actually real?
I actually don't know enough about this. Saudi soldiers pushing into the underground corridor of the Grand Mosque in Mecca after gassing the interior with a non-lethal chemical agent provided
A lot of
by
things
French
that
specialists.
There's a lot of things that happened back in the day also. So it's like these things happen. If you look into what, so you know how only Muslims can go to Mecca, Nora? Allow?
I'm sorry, it's a little bit loud. What did you say?
You know how only Muslims can go to Mecca?
I think Abby went to Mecca.
Only Muslims.
That Jewish lady.
Well, only Muslims are supposed to go to Mecca. Abby's don't tell you is that during World War One, the French and the British marched through Mecca. That's something they don't tell you.
Actually, they built a new clock tower in a hotel, and only the construction workers who they had to convert to Islam in order to work on the site.
French commandos infiltrated to gain control of Mecca. What the hell is this? I've never heard of this.
Are you Christian, Diego?
I'm Catholic, yeah.
What, you all Catholic here? Well, Zed's not. I know he's
Oh,
Jewish.
God,
So
man.
he's Jewish.
Rabbi is
No,
Orthodox Christian.
Rabbi's a spin-off of my church.
Yeah, look into the history, Sam.
So he's on the split. He's on the Byzantine side, is he? And you're on the Roman Catholic side, Roman Empire
Yeah.
Catholic.
Yeah.
Why aren't you two fighting then?
We're not fighting. We're fighting.
Okay.
Exat ran away before giving me the heart of peace.
That's right.
And in doing so, he violated yet another commandment.
Only if you're held by the mitzvahs are you violating them. If you don't hold to them, you're not.
It's, love thy neighbor, right, Rabbi?
But I have my own.
Well, Rabbi's gonna say to you that that's legalism.
No, not everything is legalism. For example, you have certain commandments. Having a commandment isn't legalism. But boiling it down to words rather than context, that is legalism. You're missing the spirit.
The Ten Commandments are legalism.
That's not, no, that's our commandments. Legalism would be
What are commandments? What God gives you? What is it?
Are you
smoking hookah?
Are you smoking? Yeah. Are you smoking marijuana? You can figure it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's something wrong with it. It's the devil's
Torah
cabbage.
is a command.
Yeah, it smells like
That's
stump.
what Torah means.
Nasty.
Torah means commandments means law, and what the Ten Commandments are is law. So
We don't know what it
That's
means.
a good argument, Rabbi.
We don't know what it means. We have to read it first, and then we can know what it means.
Have no gone before me, right? What's that? Is that a commandment? Is that a law?
What
That's
is
a commandment.
Okay, you're still
You
missing the
should do.
fact that
Things you
legalism.
have to abide
Oh,
by,
doesn't
right?
entail legalism, dude. Legalism
It's
is an
legalism.
Thou shalt not murder.
That's legalism, right? Exactly. It's a law. So you're all legalists in one way.
Thou shalt not lie.
You're just ignoring what I'm telling you. Legalism and law are not the same thing.
Of course it is.
No, the law refers to a system of rules or guidelines. And these are created and enforced by whatever social system, institution that you have. In, for example, your case, that would be the commandments or the statutes. Legalism is an approach that basically it emphasizes that you should be very adherent to laws or rules, but then you exclude the context. You exclude the
spirit of the reasoning behind the law.
Well, no. Legalism is literally definition of legalism is
How about you go?
to be applied into a judiciary
So why don't you?
construct. So the fact of we know that is a court. Now we know a court is legalism. So again,
Why don't you
you can't hide from this. Whether like
How
or
about
not.
you ask Prophet Google, dude? Google it. The definition of law, the definition of legalism is an approach. Google it, where you do miss the spirit of the Torah, because you boil it down to 613 commandments, and by the way, some of those commandments aren't really the commandments. And that's why I gave you Deuteronomy chapter 6 there you go, because that emphasizes it. How it's one commandment that got boiled down to 4 or 5 commandments that are totally irrelevant to the actual commandment. So, legalism.
So you're saying 4 out of 5 are irrelevant out of 10.
No, but yes, in that case, yes, in that specific case.
That'd be crazy. So you're going against God.
Which one?
Going literally against
Exactly.
Moses.
Exactly. Oh my, he's starting to get it.
So if you're going against Moses, hang on, you don't have the truth because Jesus
That's
didn't
what
go
I'm
against
getting
Moses,
to.
did he? Jesus was born under the law, right?
Jesus, the man was born under the law, correct?
Right. So hang on, so that means Jesus followed Moses. So again, you've just shot yourself in the foot.
No, I didn't. Well, how this? Okay, that's such a fallacy. Okay.
Well, no, it's not a fallacy. A fallacy is a lie.
But
And that is
David
not a lie.
Bobadilla here. David Bobadilla drives a Ferrari, so he must be a good chef.
Well, no, because first of all, you're saying Jesus wasn't a Jew.
Terrible.
So hang on. If Jesus wasn't a Jew, he could not have been the Messiah. That's number one. He could not.
No
have
one
been
is
the Messiah.
saying this.
So now you have to backpedal. You have to backpedal.
But no one said
again.
this guy's fighting with himself, dude.
No, you're fighting.
Hold on, let him make the point. Let him make the point.
You're dismissing Jesus as the Messiah because you're saying
But
he
you're
was a Jew.
assuming.
He didn't follow Moses,
Based
but
on
he
what?
had to.
But no one said that.
Did Jesus, when Jesus said, "Oh, foods are clean," did he eat the food? No.
Yes, he did. You can eat the
No, he
food.
didn't. Show me where he ate pork. Show me
You
where he
can
ate.
eat. Why do you think he has to eat pork?
Show me where he ate unclean foods.
Unclean foods became
Show me
clean.
where he ate it himself. Show me a verse.
Are you familiar with where it was okay to when it was okay to eat these foods?
Again,
You
I'm
find that
asking
in the book of.
No, you need to answer my question, not with a question, but answer my question. Show
Okay,
me a verse.
okay,
in the
I
Bible
made
that
your own
says
fallacy,
unclean
Randy.
foods. You can't.
That's so emotional. You will find that in the book of Acts, where this happened after the ascension of Jesus. So it was okay for you to eat this Acts chapter 10 specifically. How
No,
about you?
did Jesus eat the food?
But that's after his ascension. Jesus lived
So
on
he didn't eat the food until after his ascension.
He himself didn't eat it because he ascended. Are you
So,
there now?
so he ascended, right? But why didn't he eat it? If he's saying all foods are clean, why didn't he eat it himself?
Guys, waste of time.
You can't answer it because you know I've got
Read
to.
Acts chapter 10 and you'll understand.
Yeah, but he never ate it himself, so why isn't
Okay,
he him?
because I told you a million times that that's after his ascension.
He ate it in heaven. He ate it
That's after.
So he never so he never ate it in earth. That's my
Why
point.
do you think
So
he?
he followed Moses to the T. Jesus,
But why?
whether you like it or not, was a Pharisee. He was also a Pharisee.
I wouldn't say he's a Pharisee. I would say he's.
Only Pharisees were allowed to teach in synagogues.
No, I wouldn't say he's a Pharisee.
He was, of course he was.
You can say that, but I totally disagree with you. He actually very much disagreed. His main opponents were the Pharisees. What are you saying?
This room has been infiltrated like the U.S. Congress, telling you.
I just think you should focus on the Torah, and then we can go to the New Testament. First, know the Torah.
But no, let's focus on the New Testament because I want to pick it apart.
Why? You will never understand the New Testament if not know Torah.
Oh, I've read the New Testament to a degree.
But you can
I
read
know
it. Okay, I can read. Okay, fine. I'm gonna read Sanskrit books of northern Mesopotamia.
Wait,
That doesn't-
Yaakov, are you Jewish?
Yeah.
Nice.
How do you believe we're all human then?
Pardon?
How do you believe we're all human then if you're Jewish? Aren't we cattle?
Yaakov, do you believe in God?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Well, he also believes in you. That's why he wants
Do
you
you
to
believe Goyim are humans then?
He gave you the Torah so you can read it.
Who? Did you say goy?
Yeah. The Goy. Are the Goy human?
Of course they are.
Are they?
Yeah.
Is that what they
rabbis
teach?
disagree.
Human
So,
cows.
listen,
One rabbi can say one thing and you run with it. Doesn't mean all rabbis believe the same thing, does it?
But many rabbis believe this. Also,
And that-
Which
yeah,
one
but
is
so
maybe
what?
not being true?
Listen. You're tarring every single Jew with the same brush, which is inherently wrong. Because Jesus said, if you have hatred in your heart, you have murdered.
But I
If you
don't
have
have
lust after a woman, you have committed
He's
adultery.
he's just fighting with himself since the beginning.
Yaakov, who do you see Jesus as?
I don't know. I just don't
it's
know.
finally in a pile of shit. We already know what he sees Jesus as. It's a waste of
So
time.
you're speaking for me. That's the devil.
I'm
Okay,
speaking
well
for
you
you.
say it then.
Your
yourself.
rabbis,
Did he exist? And if he existed, where is he now?
your rabbis don't speak for you?
No, the rabbis don't speak for me. I'm not in person.
Okay, so didn't Jews always have rabbis who are in charge of their community? Now you're telling me that's
Not all Jews, no. Not all Jews had to go to rabbis.
I mean, at the end of the day,
He sounds like a reformed Jew.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's not even. At the end of the day, he's just an avatar.
You just hate Jews, MC. We heard what you were saying yesterday.
Yes, and yet you're still here.
Dirty Jews, this,
speaking
dirty
about-
Jews, that.
Yeah, you're still here speaking
But
about
Jesus would
this
spit in your face. Jesus would give you a bitch slap for saying that. You know that, right? Yes, he would.
How the
A
fuck
bitch
can
slap.
he speak for another
Moses
Jew?
would give you a bitch slap for about.
Mate, I guarantee you, Jesus hates Christians. I guarantee you.
My
Million
God,
percent.
what the fuck are you talking about? As children of
Because
the
even
devil.
the Muslims who agree you've perverted who he was. You have perverted who Jesus was.
Jesus called you guys children of the devil. He
No,
called
he
you
didn't.
snakes.
No, he
Yes, he
didn't.
did.
You don't even
First
understand what that
Thessalonians
means.
2:14 through 16.
You don't even understand
This is
what
so
that means.
gay.
And it is okay. Jesus called you
Oh,
dogs.
I said it's so gay. Not okay.
Jesus
No,
called
he
you
didn't.
dogs.
But Moses did call you well, not just Moses, the other prophets actually compared you with a whore. Because just like a whore jumps from one man to another, you jump from one God to another in your idolatry. You're saying Jesus hates the Christians. I will tell you, not only Jesus, but all the prophets, including Moshe Rabbeinu, hates the Jews. Because you guys are God's worst creation.
Moses was a Jew, dummy. So that's stupid.
But he became a Jew.
He wasn't the
doesn't mean
first
he's a
Christian.
Jew. Well, Jesus
Moses
came as a
wasn't a
suffering
Christian.
servant,
Moses wasn't
so
a Muslim.
he humbled himself in becoming a Jew.
Moses
That's
was a
different.
Jew.
Moses was a Jew, yet he completely disagrees with you. That's the point.
No, he doesn't disagree with me.
Yes, he
At all.
disagrees with you. Yes, he
No, he
does.
doesn't.
So if
We-
you're gonna
we-
say Jesus hates the Christians because
Me
they're
and
gonna-
Moses
how about
are
you read the Torah?
monotheists. We're not polytheists,
You're
sorry.
not monotheists. You
We
accept
don't believe in three gods.
Well, actually, if you look into it, you'll find that there's always been a debate between the duality
There's
and
always been a
Trinity
debate,
and
but there's
monotheism
always
in the Jewish
been a
faith.
narrative.
And you will find
Rabbi,
Trinity
I
and
did,
Judaism.
Rabbi, I did
And
what
you
you
would
recommended
also
me
find
to
that you
do,
accepted
so I'll be back
monotheism
very
in
soon.
Iraq because
Listen,
of the
listen,
Muslims.
you worship a Jew. It's ridiculous. You worship a Jewish man. It's
You
ridiculous.
worship, you also worship a Jew. You worship
So that
yourself.
means I'm related to God. I'm
So
Jewish.
that means you're the furthest thing
So
from
I'm
God. You
related to
worship
God.
yourself. You're like Pharaoh.
See how stupid you sound?
Okay, how about you go read the Torah and figure out.
How about ask yourself this: if Jesus was a Jew and he was a
Ask
God,
yourself
what does
this.
that mean
The
for all
Torah is
Jewish
real. Why
people?
don't I read it?
That means they're related to God. That's
So
stupid.
if God gave me the Torah, why don't I follow it? Ask yourself.
Because you're ignorant.
Well, you should ask yourself. I don't have to follow it. You're the one who's gone to the Torah. Why don't you follow it or read it? That's the question you should concern yourself with. Focus on the Old Testament, then you can move to the New Testament. You're never going to understand the New Testament if you don't even know the Torah. Respectfully.
I know what I need to know, my friend. It's clearly more than you.
Okay, I don't know where I spend that piece of info, but I'm just telling you.
He
The
didn't
truth
call
remains
you a
as
friend.
is.
He didn't call you a friend.
Huh?
I said he did call you a friend.
I'm not a friend to a Jew. We can be acquaintances.
I didn't call him a friend.
Diego, can you bring up Rav Judaizer?
Yeah.
Oh, I like Rabbi Judaizer. He's actually smart. He graduated from my yeshiva. He's actually not.
Shalom, Hagarim.
How are you doing?
Shalom the goyim.
I'm doing phenomenal.
So, Rabbi Judaizer and I are actually going to work on a project in the future. We're going to do commentary. Tell them about it.
Yeah, we're gonna edit, the Word of God so that it aligns with, how many different versions? There's gonna be the Jewish commentary,
We have to
the
remove
Muslim
Genesis chapter
commentary,
18.
and the Protestant commentary.
That's right. We have to remove Genesis chapter 18 and
So
Genesis
you're not
chapter
obviously
19.
Jewish then. You're not
We
really
have to
Jew.
remove Exodus chapter
I am.
24.
You are a real Jew.
Yes, but he
I
wants to do
Jewish,
what
yeah.
Rabbi Rashi did. Rabbi
what, you
Rashi
believe in
had
Jesus?
to reinterpret
Yes.
the text. We want to remove the text.
Hang on. How did